Hey, what's up, people? Pizzal here, and today I want to talk to you guys about the new Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray release for 1988's Cutting Class. Now, this is partially going to be a review of the movie as well as a review of this Blu-ray release. Now, a few years ago, for a series of reviews entitled The Back to School Slash Rally, in which I discussed campus-based slasher movies, I did a full review for Cutting Class. I'll post a link to that review around here somewhere, so I won't go fully in depth discussing Cutting Class and talk mostly about this really nice Blu-ray release from Vinegar Syndrome. But in that review of Cutting Class from several years ago, I mentioned that this film takes place in its own universe. It makes no sense. It's illogical. It's just silly. It's more of a comedy than a slasher movie. It's notable because it was Brad Pitt's big screen debut, and Brad Pitt has come a long way since Cutting Class. Now, the plot is your basic, you've got a killer picking off high school teens left and right. Is it the young man who just got out of a mental institution? Is it the pervy high school principal played by Roddy McDowall? Is it the crazy janitor? You have all these red herrings in the film. However, the identity of the killer is so blatantly obvious, it's ridiculous. This movie features a subplot in which Martin Mull goes hunting. At the beginning of the film, he leaves, he goes hunting, and he's shot with an arrow, literally. As soon as he walks into the woods, he's shot with an arrow. He spends the rest of the movie trying to get back home, avoiding being found. This subplot is like its own little movie in and of itself that is just as silly and just as out there as the rest of the movie. The cast is really good. Brad Pitt, again, long before Brad Pitt became the Brad Pitt that we all know and love. Jill Schoelen, who I love Jill Schoelen. She's one of my favorite Scream Queens. I think she's a completely underrated and overlooked Scream Queen. She was also in The Stepfather. She was in a lot of horror movies back in the 80s. Donovan Leitch is really good in this movie. Roddy McDowall is probably my favorite character in this movie. He plays this pervy high school teacher. And Roddy McDowall, even though he probably was on the set of this movie for like 2 days, maybe even a day, they probably shot him out in one day, all of his scenes. He is just so game. Like, he gets it. He understands that this is just a completely silly, whacked out movie, and he just goes with it. And I love his character. My favorite character in the movie, without doubt, is Roddy McDowall. Now, as far as the slasher movie elements, we don't have any, really, great kills in the movie. Although we have some, they're very, it's as if the writer, Steve Slavkin, who is the creator of Salute Your Shorts, the Nickelodeon show from the 90s, which I absolutely loved. It was as if he thought back to high school and said, okay, how can I kill these people? Let's have the art teacher thrown into the kiln and burned alive. Good. Who can I kill on the photocopier? Let's have someone impaled while on a trampoline with the American flag. I'm shocked that like the blackboard erasers didn't somehow come into play. Like a blackboard eraser was shoved down somebody's throat, or two of them were clapped in the killer's face and blew dust, chalk dust in his eyes. The characters in the movie are just, they're pretty whacked out. I mean, they're extreme even for high school characters. Brad Pitt is like the pretty boy jock of the school. He's constantly drinking draft beer, even on school, even on campus. He is constantly trying to get sex from his girlfriend, Jill Sholin, and she's shooting him down either because his grades aren't high enough. Literally, that was an excuse in the film. He's like, "What's wrong, baby? Your grades aren't high enough. When your grades improve, we'll do it." Or she's like, "I've got to study. I've got to study. I've got to study." Donovan Leitch plays the kid. He's fresh out of a mental institution. He wanders around the movie. He is omnipresent in this film. I don't care where these characters go. He is there. Literally, at one point, they break into the high school in the middle of the night, and guess what? He is inside the high school in the middle of the night. One character gets a cup of water out of a water cooler, and he is hidden behind the water cooler. You can see him through the container with the water in it. You can see him directly through it. She's literally face to face with him, and she doesn't see him there. He is constantly in the background of literally every shot. He is everywhere. He is omnipresent. He wears the exact same clothes the entire movie, and bowling shoes. But I think what makes this movie so odd, so bizarre, what makes this movie feel like it takes place in its own universe is the fact that it was written by Steve Slavkin, again, the creator of Salute Your Shorts. And I have to think that he wrote it as a satire of slasher movies, teen slasher movies, teen sex comedies, teen coming of age stories, just teen high school movies in general. He threw all of the elements that you would find in all of those movies into this screenplay. The film was directed by Rospo Pellenberg. Now, Mr. Pellenberg, for a long time, was John Borman's right-hand man. He wrote Deliverance. He wrote Excalibur. He worked on The Exorcist 2. This guy was a big time writer in his day. He desperately wanted to direct a movie. This movie came along. He said, "I'll do it." Mr. Pellenberg, not being American, I'm not sure he quite maybe understood the tropes of the American teen sex comedy or the American teen slasher movie. And so he shot it sort of straight. So I think there was a lot of cutting class was maybe lost in translation between the screenplay and the director. But however, it creates, again, this alchemy that is cutting class. It takes place in its own universe. It's completely illogical. It's completely silly. But I love it. I absolutely love this movie. It's right there. I wouldn't say it's so bad it's good, but it's close. It's definitely got some of those so bad it's good elements. It's just such an odd, bizarre movie. I love it. I love cutting class. That's why I jumped at the opportunity to pick up this Blu-ray release from Vinegar Syndrome. I was so excited when I heard that Vinegar Syndrome was releasing this on Blu-ray, the extras, the technical specs. I could not wait to get my hands on this Blu-ray release. If you've not seen Cutting Class, by all means, go out and watch Cutting Class. I think you will certainly dig it. This Blu-ray would be a fantastic way to introduce yourself to the film. If you are a fan of Cutting Class, you definitely need to look into picking up this Blu-ray release from Vinegar Syndrome and adding it to your collection. Let's check out the presentation first. This slipcase, now, Vinegar Syndrome offered like 4 or 5 different slipcases for this movie. I went with this one because I just think it's really cool. Check that out there. It's the math teacher. He gets an axe in his head, courtesy of the killer. Just love that artwork. On the back, you have, he was supposed to figure out a math problem, which was written on the board by the killer. He gets the answer wrong, which leads to the axe in the head. Really nice. Really sturdy slipcase, I have to say, made from pretty thick cardboard. The blood here is raised. The title is raised as well. Just really fantastic artwork. The title's raised on the side as well. Also, the Vinegar Syndrome logo. The blood is raised. Just a really, really nice slipcase for cutting class. On the sleeve here, we have, I believe this is the poster artwork for the film. The sleeve is reversible, however, and we have that artwork. I believe that this is the VHS release artwork. I used to own this movie on VHS back in the day. I can't recall if that was the artwork on the VHS or if that was the artwork on the VHS. I just don't recall. If you know which is which, please let me know. But I like both of the artworks on the sleeve here. This one is very cool. And this one, actually, I think this might be the VHS artwork because they, of course, put Brad Pitt right in the center, and they promoted the VHS release with Brad Pitt because shortly after Cutting Class, he got his big break in Thelma and Louise. So this is a DVD and Blu-ray combo release. There's the DVD. I've got the Blu-ray in my Blu-ray player. This release features the film newly scanned and restored in 4K from its 35mm original camera negative. I've seen the movie on VHS. I own it on DVD. This is the best Cutting Class has ever looked. It's a great transfer. It's crisp, it's clean, it's clear. It's actually too good because there was at least one moment in the film I noticed where it was out of focus. It was a close-up on Donovan Leitch, and he was out of focus. Never noticed that on the VHS, never noticed that on the DVD, but you can definitely notice here on this new Blu-ray release from Vinegar Syndrome. As far as the picture quality and sound quality are concerned, I'd give them both a solid 4.5 out of 5. The movie looked great. The movie sounded great. As far as extras are concerned, first up, we have Uncutting Class. It's 20 minutes and 26 seconds in length. It's an interview with Jill Schoelen. Miss Schoelen discusses how she got the gig in Cutting Class. She admits that she did not like the script, but wanted to work with the director. She discusses her relationship with the director being a difficult one. She discusses working with Roddy McDowall and Martin Mull. Miss Schoelen discusses having no regrets when it comes to her career, but admits that there are a few jobs she wishes she wouldn't have taken, and clearly I think one of those was Cutting Class. She discusses how the making of Cutting Class was not a pleasant experience for her. She discusses the struggles of being an actress, such as unequal pay, etc. She discusses how grateful she is for the fans of the movie who have kept it alive all these years. Very nice interview with Ms. Schoelen. Next up, we have Donovan Makes the Cut. It's an interview with Donovan Leitch at 16 minutes and 25 seconds in length. Mr. Leitch discusses how he got involved in Cutting Class and being excited to work with Roscoe Pellenberg based on his background as a writer. He discusses working with Roddy McDowall and Roddy being so much fun to work with. He discusses there being a go for it attitude on the set and doing a lot of things on the fly while shooting the film. He discusses an instance in which Brad Pitt mooned a passing car, and the driver of that car actually called the police, and the police showed up on the set looking for the fiend who mooned this poor driver, and they very quietly sort of spirited Brad Pitt away so that he would not be taken down for mooning someone, which today people would pay to be mooned by Brad Pitt. So anyway, very nice interview with Mr. Leitch. Next up, we have an audio interview with director Roscoe Pellenberg. It's 46 minutes and 15 seconds in length. Mr. Pellenberg discusses his background, his work as a playwright, and becoming an architect and then musician before meeting John Boorman and being asked by Boorman to adapt the Lord of the Rings books for him. But United Artists shelved the project because they thought the Lord of the Rings was about a jewel thief. And when he handed them the screenplay, and it was not about jewel thieves, but, hobbits and sorcery and, yeah. He discusses writing Deliverance and Excalibur for Borman. He discusses looking for a project to direct, and after a number of writing projects went unproduced, he discusses how Cutting Class came to be. He discusses casting the film. He discusses wanting to keep a balance between the comedic and murder mystery elements in the film, but feels that the comedic elements don't quite work. I beg to differ. The comedic elements work quite well. He discusses directing the actors, only doing a handful of takes for each shot, and doing upwards of 40 plus setups per day. That's a lot. He discusses how he'd intended Cutting Class to be a stepping stone to bigger and better films as a director, and Cutting Class is the only film that he ever directed. Nice interview with Mr. Pellenberg. Next up, we have an audio interview with director of photography Avi Karpik. It's 23 minutes and 31 seconds in length. Mr. Karpik discusses his background and what led him to becoming a cinematographer. He discusses not understanding American horror movies, but having fun shooting Cutting Class anyway. He discusses the cast in the film and working with director Rospo Pellenberg. The audio quality of this interview made it a little bit difficult to hear. It was an interview conducted over the phone, but still, pretty nice interview with Mr. Karpik. Next up, we have Killing Comparisons, unrated versus R-rated versions. It's 3 minutes and 53 seconds in length. Basically, it's an extra comparing the R-rated version of the film versus the unrated version when it comes to the kills in the film. The kills include the bleacher kill, the trampoline kill, the axe kill, and the hammer saw kill. We get a commentary with the hysteria continues, and we get the original trailer for Cutting Class. This is an excellent Blu-ray release for Cutting Class from Vinegar Syndrome. I am so happy that Cutting Class got this kind of Blu-ray release. Again, I've loved this movie for so long, and to see it get this kind of restoration, this kind of release as far as the presentation, all these extras, it was really cool. Viva la Vinegar Syndrome. Thank you guys for such an excellent release for Cutting Class. I'll post a link to Vinegar Syndrome's website down in the description. Go over and check them out. If you've seen Cutting Class, please let me know your thoughts on it down in the comment section below. If you picked up this Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome, please let me know which slipcase artwork you went with down in the comments section below. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. Hope you guys out there are all having a great, safe, healthy, and happy holiday season. Whatever holiday you celebrate, I hope you're having a fantastic one. Take care, and until next time, peace. Join the A Buck a Month Club and help support my channel on Patreon. Thank you to my current patrons, Kevin Smythe, Orc145626, B-Movie Mike, Robert Sobel, Turi Delamore, Stephen Flanagan, Lori Holt, Mitch Odell, Farron Sutton, Craig Farrand, Jeremiah Lambert, Grindhouse Grotto, Joseph Charlesworth, Chris Earls, Derek Jana, Demon Waffles, Tim Williams, Stone Gassman, Zachary Barton, Mr. Bibby86, James Welch, Eli Geisler, Jeff Overing, Cliff Hostetter, Kyle McGuire, Jay the Stingray, Lauren Dixon, Travis Davis, and Dave Barnes. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.